I don't want to waste your time, so there won't be an intro. Pro League teams are neither all-knowing nor all-powerful. In this video, I go over 4 high-level mistakes that are pretty common among Pro League teams. I'll always only show 1 or 2 clips for every mistake, but you can trust me that everything I talk about here happens somewhat often. The first common mistake is teams not understanding the implications of operator bans. And that is especially true when something like Thatcher and Maverick are banned. A lot of teams are reluctant to play Cali in this situation, and that just means that you can win rounds for free by focusing on wall denial. And as you can see here, BDS is playing Cade, but Rafal just doesn't use the gadget, like at all. He dies with 2 Electroclaws in his pocket. Admittedly, that's a very extreme example, so I'll show you another clip, and this is a much more common occurrence. Again, Thatcher and Maverick are banned, and on a map like Theme Park, it's already pretty difficult to get a wall open, so that's a prime opportunity to really go all in on wall denial. But instead, BDS is only playing Cade, who has both of his Electroclaws on the yellow wall. And they're also not impact tricking towards barrels. So G2 can get Split Hatch and Barrels Wall basically for free. And with these bans, something like that just shouldn't happen. Now let's look at how G2 approaches the situation on their defense. And we can immediately see what their focus is, right? Bandit, Mute, 4 impacts. And they're actively trying to keep the wall closed. After Sledge nades the pre-placed batteries, Legion moves into position to impact trick, and then they also have Bandit rotate over. To be fair, he's a bit too late, but Pengu clutches it with that Kobe. This means that the wall stays closed, and at the end of the round, BDS is forced to just funnel into Dragon Door, and of course you just can't win that. So, as you can see, this round was solely won based on G2's decision to focus on wall denial, because they understood the implications of the operator bans. But overall, it seems that this is a concept that quite a few teams are struggling with, not just BDS. Mistake number 2 is about not playing the map as a defender. But what does that mean exactly? Typically, the defenders pick an area of the map that they want to hold, and then they have some set positions to hold that area. On a Cafe Cocktail defense, that could look something like this. And now the mistake is starting out in these positions. In the early game, there's just no value in being in these positions. So instead, you should play the map. In the specific example, this means that Jaeger should start the round playing here, for example. Now, of course, this is not a position that you can play for the entire round. But the thing is, you're not trying to play the position for the entire round. You play this position until you shoot the first drone, and then you fall back. Look at how Hawk and Cole is doing it here. You play some kind of weird forward position and wait for a drone. If you don't get droned, great, you just got a free kill, and you fall back. But you don't fall back all the way. You fall back some of the way, wait, shoot another drone, and then you fall back all the way. So this is how it's supposed to look like. Now I'm going to show you the opposite. Here we have the same BDS G2 round that I showed you earlier, but this time we're interested in the early game. Whenever a site is located on the ground floor, attackers usually want to take control of the floor above. And in this situation, playing the map is insanely strong. Look at how efficient G2 is right now. They got control of the entire top floor within the first minute of the round, and they didn't lose a single drone. And that is because every BDS player is currently on site. Now imagine the situation if defenders played the map right here. A defender on Arcade could have shot Pengu's drone and then fallen back, and a defender on Yellow Stairs could have shot Kanto's or Citizen's drone and then fallen back. And these positions at this stage of the round are basically zero risk, as attackers simply don't have enough operators to drone the map, clear the map, and then to also trap these roamers all at the same time. That's just not how it works. If BDS was playing the map, G2's clear would have been at least 20 seconds slower, and they would have lost at least 2 drones. But BDS isn't doing any of that. In fact, they are literally not playing the map at all, with 5 men on site at the 2-minute mark. And this allows G2 to actually clear the entire map and to apply pressure from every single side, which just shouldn't be possible on a map like Theme Park. So as you can see, you have to play the map as a defender. And this is a bit of a pet peeve of mine. I basically talk about that in every single one of my streams. So I want to show you another set of examples that really emphasize the difference between playing the map and not playing the map. This is round 3 of Tempo Storm vs Oxygen, and as you can see, Oxygen is not playing the map at all, and this means that Tempo Storm has no issue clearing it, and they are able to start playing vertically at about 1 minute 40 with 9 drones still alive. Now let's look at round 6 of the same match, because this time Oxygen is actually playing the map. Now, admittedly, the way Vert does it is a bit more aggressive than what I envision under playing the map. My version of it would just be playing on top white stairs, shooting a drone, and then falling back to mid white stairs. And then you repeat the process until you're back on site. But look at what this play did to Tempo Storm's clear. At this point, every Oxygen roamer is already long back to site, but Tempo is still busy droning. And they only get proper map control at around 40 seconds with only 4 drones left. Now compare this to the previous round where Tempo Storm had everything cleared with 1 minute 40 on the clock and 9 drones left. And in the current meta, I don't think I need to explain why that difference is just absolutely massive. But still, playing the map is something that not all Pro League teams are consistently taking advantage of. But okay, I think I made my point clear by now. So let's jump to the next mistake, which is defenders overstaying their welcome. Here we have Rogue versus Virtus Pro, with Rogue defending the kitchen objective. But instead of just turtling on site, Valk and Legion are actively playing the map. They shoot drones and fall back. So up until now, I'm a big fan. And they even get this kill on an overeager Capitao. But this is where I think that they are overstaying their welcome. Instead of taking their lead and running away with it by immediately retreating, they continue to fight on the top floor instead. And the problem here is that Virtus Pro knows exactly where both Rogue players are. And if you know where defenders are, it's typically pretty easy to trap them and then to eventually kill them. The thing is, fighting is exactly what Virtus Pro wants right now. They can't win the round with a 4v5 side execute if they're already this low on time and Capitao is dead. But if Rogue allows them to get into gunfights here, then there's a chance that Virtus Pro can just win the round by getting kills. Because then it doesn't really matter that much anymore if you're low on time or utility. But if you fall back here, you can really abuse that fact. Because now the attackers need to drone you out again, and they need to push you out again. But both of these are more difficult than before because they already lost a player. Of course, there are always exceptions to every rule, but in general, I think that defenders should be falling back if they get an early kill. The last mistake on my list has to do with minigames. Specifically, teams not being prepared for minigames. But what exactly is a minigame? I use the term to refer to common scenarios that happen in pretty much every round, and that are oftentimes not solved by winning gunfights. I'm talking about denying the bandit trick on Clubhouse CC ball, for example, or taking server stairs control on a bank basement attack, or taking yellow stairs control on a consulate CEO attack. All 3 of those are problems that the attackers need to deal with in literally every single round, right? And all of those have solutions that work more than 90% of the time, because these minigames are usually not about gunfights. They are about utility and coordination. In this round, BDS is trying to get a Mawsy out of yellow stairs, and this is basically clearing yellow on easy mode, because they don't need to deal with a Jaeger trick. But nevertheless, BDS botches 2 grenades, and then Hibana just repels in and dies. And that is of course not an isolated incident. In this round against Rogue, BDS is once again playing a CEO take, so you need to get yellow control. But instead of using flashbangs and nades to kill the yellow player, BDS' idea of clearing yellow is sending Shaiko up yellow stairs. These 2 rounds just demonstrate that BDS didn't bother coming up with a plan against a yellow stairs player. And they're certainly not the only team in their region that struggles with minigames. For a demonstration on how it should be done, we just need to look at NA, because they got these minigames figured out. In fact, NA teams are so proficient at clearing yellow that no one even defends CEO anymore. It's the least played side on Consulate. And I'm showing this round even though something went wrong, because I don't expect PL teams to always execute this perfectly, but I do expect a basic understanding of what needs to be done, and I just don't see that from a lot of teams. Which is honestly a shame, because clearing yellow is just a matter of practice. You go into a custom game, think about the positions you need to play, and then you dry run it a few times to get the timing down. It's really not that difficult. So that was the final point on my list, not being prepared for minigames. But there is still something I want to talk about. A few of you might have realized that I used a lot of BDS clips to illustrate my points, and that's obviously not a coincidence. BDS is a prime offender of all 4 mistakes. Of course, they're not the only ones. The mistakes I talked about here are fairly general and certainly not limited to only one team. But I think that the arguably best team in EU does deserve some special attention. Now, it's not a secret that I don't like the way BDS is playing the game. BDS is not structured, they are not strategic, and they win most of their rounds off the back of winning gunfights. But before you start writing an angry message, I don't blame them for playing like that. In fact, if I was their coach, we would play the exact same way. If you have a group of players who are insanely skilled individually, it doesn't make sense to tie them down to a system and force them to play certain roles. Players like that typically work much better if you give them the freedom to do whatever they want. And I may not like watching that playstyle, but I can't deny that it's the correct one for BDS. However, and this is the point I'm trying to make here, these mistakes I talked about have nothing to do with playstyle. Playing the map and shooting drones is a concept that is entirely independent of your playstyle. You can be as passive or aggressive as you want, but you will always benefit from playing the map. And the same is of course true for all the other mistakes I've talked about. So, while I can't criticize BDS for the playstyle they chose to play, I can very much criticize them for being bad at minigames, not using utility properly, not playing the map, and overstaying their welcome. Now, there are 2 ways that you can interpret this information. Either you say, okay, looks like BDS isn't actually that good of a team, and I think that's totally fair. But you can also look at this from another perspective. BDS is already one of the best teams in Europe, while committing a bunch of obvious mistakes. But now imagine just how great they could be if they actually fixed those mistakes. And I think that is really something that BDS fans can look forward to. Alright, that's it for the video. I hope I'm not getting lynched by angry BDS fans after this one. I hope that you enjoyed it, and I hope that you learned something new. Thanks for watching.